Shuttle 1 has just departed from the East Gantry.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Million Ways Gage Blackwood Can Die, Space Edition! Let's look at all the deaths that can happen on Mars, because there is a lot of them. The majority of the deaths actually come from Mars, because there's just so many ways that can happen. The first one we're going to look at is not a unique death in itself, it's actually tied to a separate death screen. Because this is what happens when you are running out of energy. This is going to be another waiting around for 2 hours to make sure this death happens. I'm just going to say now that you don't have to do this particular death, because it is coupled with another death screen. And that's incarcerated, which is interesting because I have not defused the bomb yet. This is the first time I'm jumping to Mars, so the card bomb is still in its reader. But no matter what you do, if you run out of energy, you will just get incarcerated and get taken away by the security officers. You won't get blown up. Anyway, the incarcerated death screen with running out of energy is tied to the next death that we're going to be looking at. This is pretty much how you're going to be getting this death screen normally. Remember these guys?
A thermal scan has detected colony personnel in close proximity. TSA Protocol 3 forbids any contact with humans during a temporal restoration mission.
Yes. So,
what are you supposed to be? Get him!
You get him.
You get him.
No,
you get him.
stare into the camera. Alright. Yep, so we might as well just go and say hello. In the hands of security officers, you have been escorted to a cell, which is to serve as your new home. If only you had paid more attention to the warnings. You won't be in that cell very long, I'll just say, because everybody will get blown up. The other door
Hey, where'd you come from?
says something a little bit different. But it leads to the same death screen. The next death happens to happen in, when you get the interactive scene wrong. It's the only place, it's the first input that you have to do, and you hit right, and you'll get the wrong turn. Memo to Temporal Security Recruiting Department, look for agents who will remember to look at a map before getting behind the wheel. It's the only one that can happen. Every other input in the interactive segment has a safety attached to it. Our next death has to do with good old Ares here. Hi. Why do I need to get out of your way? Can you not just go around me? I know that you're pretty bulky and everything, but they shouldn't be in your way that much. You like bait? Nope. Hi. Not gonna throw. Nope, not gonna throw me this time. Okay. So yes, instead of getting thrown the first time, you're gonna get eliminated the second time. Finding you a nuisance, the robot made good on its threat. It then tossed your lifeless corpse to the ground and casually continued on its way. Nice.
Tunnel pod has just departed lower transport sector.
Now, I'm gonna say this now in terms of our next couple deaths that we're looking at. Do not get the oxygen mask just yet. It will be very important. But for right now, we just noticed that the transport pod just left and went up to the colony again.
Transport tunnel currently in use. Recommend vacating the area immediately.
And that's what's going to happen if you try to go and get it. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do it. As if on cue, the transport pod came careening back down the tunnel and plowed over you. It's also another place where there is a unique line of the AI that is only in the Steam version, I noticed. I don't really get this if I try to do the death on GOG or the physical version. Our next death has to do with not having the oxygen mask in our inventory, and we have not diffused the card bomb yet. What happens if we decide to go into the airlock? Well, one, we'll probably run out of air if we decide to stay here, but if you decide to just go straight into the Mars maze, you will get destroyed. Your history. Just as the TSA historical log indicated, you have witnessed the destruction of the Mars colony. Unfortunately, you did not discover the source of the explosion in time. Yeah, that's gonna happen. So, back in the Mars maze, if we decide to not take a step forward and wait for, well, our oxygen to pretty much run out, because we're in space, technically, what's gonna happen? I wonder. All of these deaths that really have to do with running out of air or something like that it's a little bit weird. But you have to wait a good, 30 seconds to a minute? I'm gonna go over this again, but anyway, you do suffocate. As the airlock door slid shut behind you, you realized your mistake. Gasping for oxygen, you collapsed and perished in a matter of moments. Now, in the game files, there are 2 separate suffocated death screens. This is the first one, and it has to do with you not having the oxygen mask at all. We'll get to the next one soon enough. Right now, what we're going to do is we're going to wait around in the reactor until our energy completely depletes. Because we're going to get a completely different death screen there. Toasted. A lethal dose of radiation would normally have been about 240 rads. Given enough time, the 4,700 rads from the generator core was sufficient to disintegrate your flesh. You don't have to wait a whole lot in order to get the energy to deplete there, because it will deplete rapidly if you don't have the shield biochip equipped. Unfortunately, they don't really do cool death screens like in Turbo, because it looks exactly the same except with a different hue. Our next death has to do with just ripping out the card bomb. If you do that, well, we've already seen the vaporized death screen because I showed it off in the main playthrough. Though you managed to find the source of the Mars colony's destruction, the bomb was not disarmed in time. If you fail on the mastermind, you will also get the same death. Nothing unique there. Now, I kind of just wanted to do this out of curiosity. I don't have my oxygen mask equipped, but now the bomb is disarmed, so I can go through the Mars maze. How far do you think you can get without the oxygen mask at all? Even if you knew where you were going. Generally, you can get about that far in the Mars maze before it pretty much says, nope, you're done, forget it. And I would say that's a little under a 1/5 of the way through the Mars maze, so you can't get through there at all. Now, this one is actually a failed attempt at a death screen. If you have the oxygen mask on, and you're waiting for it to deplete, and you run out of energy before it depletes completely, you will get incarcerated. Somehow they will find you in the Mars maze and put you in a cell. I don't really understand that, but just kind of the weird turn of events and what triggers. But this is the proper way to do it. Have way more energy than I did. And eventually you will run out of oxygen in your oxygen mask. It will get to low, and then eventually it will get to empty. And then you will just have to wait the full amount of time in order to make sure that you are out of oxygen completely, and you die that way. How does the breathing work for you? Is it spooky enough for you? I don't really know. And there we go. This is the second suffocation screen, because you can see the description is different. As your oxygen supply waned, the pounding of your heartbeat became deafening, and your world began to spin. You collapsed before finding a way out. Yeah, so you need to have one death with the oxygen mask on, this one, and then not having the oxygen mask in your inventory, period. If you have it in your inventory, you will not get the other suffocation death screen. The next deaths have to do just specifically inside the Mars maze, because if you might notice, there's all of these grinders that are going around pretty much working on the maze and the excavation of the mines. You can get killed by them. Hi. And here you get the pulverized death screen. Though not programmed for defense, the mining droids' unpredictable behavior make them a threat to anyone who approaches too closely. Otherwise, you are just standing around and waiting for them to just kind of do their thing. Now, in the Mars maze, there are 4 different grinders, and if you're wanting another achievement on Steam, you need to find all 4 of them, because they count as separate robot deaths, which the game counts separately compared to the other deaths that we are currently going through right now. Now, I will say that there are multiple ways in order to approach some of these crushers, but you only really need to get killed once by each of the 4 unique ones in the maze. I like that they just kind of show up and just go hi, and then just bang. But yeah, I find it really weird that they're just kind of here. It also is like, how can I get that punk? So yeah, I think I showed about like 6 different ways that you can get pulverized with them. All of them have to do specifically with the same death screen though, so you don't really have to do it all of them. Our next couple of deaths have to do with the mine bucket shaft specifically. The first one has to do with bad timing. With bad timing, you get shafted. You really should look where you're walking. Unfortunately, falling down the shaft didn't kill you. Unfortunately, landing at the bottom did. This has to just do with timing, and pretty much going forward at the wrong time. It's easier to do than it was in Turbo, which was just like mashing the button in order to get shafted to trigger. But there is a different way in order to make shafted happen that's easier than timing.
Ore crushing machinery in close proximity. Prepare to exit.
If you decide to just mash on the forward button while you are in the bucket and it's a black screen, you'll also get the shafted death screen that way if you want to be a little bit easier on yourself. The next one has to do with staying in the ore bucket way too long. Up we go! Ugh. And there we get pulverized in a different way. You should not get too comfortable in that ore bucket. It may have felt like a nice safe haven until you were drawn into the grinding teeth of an ore crusher. Seeing as Agent 5 is just kind of like losing his legs instantly, he's not in a whole lot of different pain, is he?
Warning. Life support systems not active beyond this point.
It's weird because I'm playing all of this on the Steam version. There's a lot of extra comments that I haven't been able to get to in the main playthrough that I'm pretty much able to show now. But if you wanted to get pulverized in the mining bucket earlier, or if you wanted to suffocate earlier, you can just go simply to the right of the colony entrance. And then you will get to the opposite side of this area and you can suffocate, or you can even get into the mine bucket there. Dying quicker with more efficiency. I don't really know what else I could really call it. Our next death has to do with not paying attention. So you remember that Shuttle 1 got away? You can fall out of it, and that's because Ares made a security override. So with the overrides down, the doors opened without a shuttle in the docking bay. The resulting decompression blew you out into the 150-meter deep canyon. Yeah, so you can do this in the first shuttle docking bay, because that was the one that left at the very beginning of the time zone. Or you can do it in another door immediately after you were
No
told.
shuttle present at this dock. Emergency shuttle lock override.
You can head into Shuttle 2, which was what Ares took, and fall out the same way. Some people might point out that it's a little bit persnickety that you fall that fast on Mars because the atmosphere is a little bit different, but I just try to not pay too much attention to it. Our next death has to do with, well, the ship chase. There are two specific deaths that have to do with the death, specifically in the ship. One is during the ship chase and one is during after it. Now, this is another interactive scene, so you have to get a specific area of going left or right wrong. And this is another area where it's actually pretty lenient in order to actually get it through this pretty easily, because there's only one spot where you're able to actually die, and it's here. Press right, you will smash right into that wall, and you will get crash and burn. You discovered that your frantic steering was not enough to rival the computer-perfect reflexes of the robot as your shuttle slammed into the canyon wall. Well, there you go. Yeah, it's weird because there's going to be interactive segments that we're going to look at later on, which are way less lenient than these. Next up, we have, dying here. Seeing all of this debris smash against our screen. It's gonna take a while in order to make sure that we get all the way down, because we pretty much have to die by having our health deplete completely. It will take a good 2 minutes in order to make sure that you see all of the different debris that is coming after you. Your ship is able to take a good 10 hits. And then the final 11th hit is what's going to set you over the edge in order to get to the death screen. Which in this case is going to be this, barrel looking thing. There we go. And we're done. And that is the final death, the separate crash and burn that makes our shuttle explode into a shower of fragments. With that, you should have an extra 15 unique deaths, because they're all tied to their specific death screens, and that'll be it for Mars. So see you next time for more deaths and creative ways to die in another time zone. See you then.